Austin Richard Post, the boy who will become Post Malone, came into the world on July 4th, 1995, in Syracuse, New York. Born on America's Independence Day, it was almost like fate was hinting he'd grow up to be someone bold and free-spirited. His parents, Richard and Nicole Post, were young and working hard to build a life. Richard, Austin's dad, wasn't just any dad. He was a DJ in his earlier years, spinning records and filling their home with music. From hip-hop to country to classic rock, the Post household was a melting pot of sounds. Austin soaked it all up, even as a toddler, bobbing his head to whatever his dad played. His mom, Nicole, was a steady presence, keeping things grounded while Richard's job brought a bit of flair to their lives. Austin's early years in Syracuse were simple, playing outside, watching cartoons, and listening to his dad's eclectic playlists. When Austin was 9, his world shifted. His dad got a new job managing concessions for the Dallas Cowboys, a big deal that meant moving the family to Grapevine, Texas. For a kid, leaving friends and a familiar neighborhood wasn't easy, but Austin adapted fast. Grapevine, a cozy suburb near Dallas, had a small-town feel with big Texas energy. It was a kind of place where high school football games were a religion, and country music blared from pickup trucks. Austin fell in love with Texas, its wide-open spaces, and its proud, laid-back culture. It became the backdrop for his childhood, and later, a key piece of who he'd become as an artist. In Grapevine, Austin's personality started to shine. He was a skinny kid with a quick smile, a bit shy but full of curiosity. Music wasn't his only obsession at first. Video games were huge. Like most kids in the mid-2000s, he got hooked on Guitar Hero, the game where you strummed a plastic guitar to rock songs. For Austin, it wasn't just a game. He got so good that he started wondering what a real guitar felt like. At 12, he begged his parents for one, and they got him a cheap acoustic. From then on, he was unstoppable, teaching himself chords by watching YouTube tutorials and mimicking songs he loved. He'd sit in his room for hours, strumming until his fingers hurt, trying to figure out Metallica riffs or Bob Dylan's folk tunes. His dad noticed his knack for music and encouraged it, slipping him CDs of everyone from 50 Cent to Johnny Cash. School wasn't Austin's favorite place, but he got by at Grapevine High School. He wasn't the star quarterback or the class president. He was a kid with long hair and a quirky sense of humor, always humming a tune. He made friends easily, especially with other kids into music or gaming. By 14, he was dabbling in more than just guitar. He downloaded a free program called Audacity and started messing around with beats, recording himself rapping and singing. It was raw, but it was his. Around this time, he got into hip-hop heavy, idolizing Kanye West and Lil Wayne. Their fearless style, mixing raw lyrics with catchy melodies, stuck with him. At 15, Austin took a big swing. He heard about a local metalcore band, Crown the Empire, looking for a guitarist. He was a huge fan of their heavy sound, so he showed up to audition, guitar in hand. He was nervous but pumped, ready to shred. Halfway through his tryout, disaster struck. His guitar string snapped. The band passed on him, and Austin was crushed. Looking back, he laughed it off, saying it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. But it lit a fire in him. He didn't want to just play in someone else's band. He wanted to create his own music. By 16, Austin was ready to show the world what he could do. He spent months in his bedroom, piecing together his first mixtape, Young and After Them Riches. Using Audacity, he layered beats, rapped, and even sang a little, pouring his teenage heart into it. The mixtape was rough around the edges. Think lo-fi beats and awkward flows, but it had soul. He burned copies onto CDs and handed them out at school, proud as could be. His classmates were impressed, even if some giggled at his earnest raps. That year, his senior class voted him most likely to become famous in the yearbook. It was half a joke, half a nod to his undeniable spark. Austin tucked that memory away, knowing he wanted to prove them right. High school wasn't all smooth, though. Austin felt like an outsider sometimes, not quite fitting in with the jocks or the preppy kids. He leaned into his quirks, wearing band tees and growing his hair out. He was into skateboarding, anime, and, of course, music. His dad's job with the Cowboys meant Austin got to go to games sometimes, soaking in the electric atmosphere of NFL Sundays. Those moments, watching fans cheer, feeling the energy of a crowd, stayed with him, planting seeds for the performer he'd become. After graduating in 2013, Austin enrolled at Tarrant County College, mostly to make his parents happy. College wasn't his thing, though. He'd sit in class, doodling lyrics in his notebook, itching to make music. He lasted less than a year before dropping out. He had a bigger plan. At 18, he told his parents he wanted to move to Los Angeles to chase his music dreams. His mom was worried, but his dad, who'd seen Austin's drive, backed him up. Richard had connections in the music world from his DJ days and believed his son had something special. In early 2014, Austin packed his bags and headed to L.A. with his friend Jason Probst, a gamer and Twitch streamer he'd met online. Jason was like a brother, and the two shared a dream of making it big. They moved into a cramped apartment in the San Fernando Valley, scraping by on odd jobs. Austin worked at Chicken Express, flipping fried chicken to pay rent, while Jason streamed games. They teamed up with a few other friends to form a music collective called BLCKVRD, a loose group of producers and rappers. They'd stay up all night, making beats, smoking weed, and dreaming of fame. Austin was still figuring out his sound, blending hip-hop with the rock and folk he grew up on. During those L.A. nights, Austin stumbled on the name Post Malone. He was messing around with an online rap named Generator, just for laughs, and it spit out Post Malone. He thought it sounded cool, like a mix of old-school swagger and modern edge. He adopted it, and Austin Post started fading into the background. He spent hours in a makeshift studio, recording tracks with whatever equipment they could borrow. One night, he and a producer friend, FKI First, started working on a beat that felt different, spacey, dreamy with a trap vibe. It was a seed for something big, though Austin didn't know it yet. Those early LA days were tough but magical. Austin was broke, far from home, and unknown, but he was free. He'd walk down Hollywood Boulevard, guitar slung over his shoulder, imagining his name on a marquee. He was 19, full of hope, and ready to take on the world. His Texas roots, grit heart, and a love for music kept him going. Little did he know, a single song was about to change his life forever. By early 2015, Austin Richard Post, now fully embracing his stage name Post Malone, was a 19-year-old kid in Los Angeles with big dreams and a small bank account, living in a cramped apartment in the San Fernando Valley with his friend Jason Probst and their music collective BLCKVRD. Post was hustling to make a name for himself. He was still working shifts at Chicken Express, saving every penny to buy studio time or borrow equipment. The LA music scene was a jungle, competitive, cutthroat, and full of talent, but Post had something special. His blend of hip-hop, rock, and a touch of country grit set him apart, even if he hadn't found the right spark yet. That spark came one late night in February 2015, when everything changed. Post was in the studio with his friend and producer FKI First, messing around with beats as usual. They started crafting a track with a dreamy, slow rolling vibe. Think hazy synths and a heavy bass line. Post began freestyling over it, channeling his love for basketball legend Allen Iverson. The result was White Iverson, a song about swagger, struggle, and dreaming big. Post's voice, a mix of raspy singing and laid-back rapping, floated over the beat like he was telling a story from his soul. He recorded it in one take, raw and unpolished, and uploaded it to SoundCloud on a whim. He went to bed that night, not thinking much of it. Just another track in a sea of demos. The next morning, Post woke up to chaos. White Iverson was blowing up on SoundCloud, racking up thousands of plays in hours. By the end of the week, it was nearing 1 million. Fans on X, then Twitter, were buzzing, sharing the song with fire emojis and calling a banger. Rappers like Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa tweeted their praise, but would say it was hard as fuck. Post was stunned. He'd been grinding for years, making mixtapes in his Texas bedroom, handing out CDs at school, but nothing like this. The song's vibe, with lyrics about balling like Iverson and sipping Sauvignon Blanc, hit a nerve. It was catchy, relatable, and fresh, blending hip-hop with melody you could hum all day. The viral success of White Iverson caught the attention of the music industry. record labels started calling, and Post, still a teenager, was navigating a whirlwind. In August 2015, he signed with Republic Records, a major label known for artists like Drake and The Weeknd. The deal was life-changing. No more Chicken Express shifts, no more scraping by. Republic saw Post as a star in the making, someone who could bridge hip-hop and pop in a way few others could. They weren't wrong, but Post stayed humble, still the Texas kid who loved chilling with friends and making music for fun. That same month, Post got us a real opportunity. He was invited to perform at Kylie Jenner's 18th birthday party in Los Angeles, a glitzy event packed with celebrities. Nervous but excited, he took the stage and performed White Iverson to a crowd that included Kanye West. Kanye loved it, vibing to the song, and later reached out to Post for a studio session. They worked together on Fade for Kanye's album The Life of Pablo, a track that blended Post's melodic style with Kanye's experimental production. For Post, being in the studio with one of his idols was a pinch-me moment. He was starstruck, but played it cool, soaking up every second of the experience. The Kanye connection wasn't the only big break. Post SoundCloud was caught the ear of Justin Bieber's team, who invited him to open for Bieber's Purpose World Tour in 2016. At 20 years old, Post was performing in arenas, sharing stages with one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. The tour was a crash course in performing. Thousands of screaming fans, massive stages, and the pressure to deliver. Post's set was short, mostly White Iverson and a few early tracks, but his energy won over crowds. His long braid, face tattoos, which he started getting, and laid-back vibe made him stand out. Bieber even brought him out for duets, and the two struck up a friendship, bonding over music and late-night hangs. While touring, Post was working on his first major project, a mixtape called August 26. The title was a nod to his planned debut album release date, though the album would come later. Released in May 2016, the mixtape was a showcase of his versatility. Grimy hip-hop tracks like No Option, soulful joints like Go Flex, and even some guitar-driven vibes. It was raw, a little rough, but full of promise. Fans on X were eating it up, posting clips of songs and hyping Post as the next big thing. The mixtape kept his momentum going, proving he wasn't just a one-hit wonder. By December 2016, Post was ready to drop his debut album, Stoney. The release was delayed a few months from the planned August date, but it was worth the wait. Stoney was a melting pot of sounds, hip-hop, pop, R&B, and even hints of rock. Tracks like Congratulations featuring Quavo became anthems, with his triumphant beat and lyrics about making it against the odds. The song went diamond, selling over 10 million copies, a rare feat. Other hits like I Fall Apart showed Post's emotional side, with raw vocals about heartbreak that hit fans hard. The album peaked at number 4 on the Billboard 200, a huge win for a debut. Critics called it a bold first step, with outlets like Billboard praising Post's ability to blur genre lines. Post's rise wasn't just about music. It was about his vibe. He was a new kind of star, with his messy hair, face tattoos, and thrift store style. He'd show up to shows in cowboy boots and a tie-dye shirt, sipping a Bud Light and cracking jokes. Fans loved his realness, posting on X about how he felt like a friend you could grab a beer with. He wasn't trying to be a polished pop star. He was just Austin, a kid from Texas who loved music and somehow ended up famous. But fame brought pressure too. As Stoney climbed the charts, Post was already working on his next move, determined to prove he could keep up the pace. The years 2015 to 2016 were a rocket ship for Post Malone. From a broke kid uploading tracks to SoundCloud to touring with Bieber and dropping a hit album, he'd gone from unknown to unstoppable. White Iverson was a spark, but Post's talent, work ethic, and genre-bending style were the fuel. He was just getting started, and the world was watching. By 2017, Post Malone was no longer just a kid with a viral SoundCloud hit. His debut album, Stoney, had cemented him as a rising star, with his diamond-certified single Congratulations, an emotional banger, I Fall Apart, resonating with millions. At 22, he was riding a wave of fame, but the pressure was on to prove he could keep climbing. The music world was watching, and Post was ready to take things to the next level. Over the next few years, he didn't just solidify his place in the industry, He redefined it, blending genres, breaking records, and becoming one of the biggest artists on the planet. His journey from 2017 to 2024 was a masterclass in evolution, as he pushed boundaries and showed the world he wasn't tied to one sound. Post kicked things off with his second album, Beer Bongs and Bentleys, released in April 2018. It was a bold leap forward, packed with ambition and polish. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 450,000 album equivalent units in its first week. It wasn't just a commercial win. It broke streaming records with over 400 million streams on Spotify in its debut week, a feat that stunned the industry. The lead single, Rockstar, featuring 21 Savage, was a game changer. Its dark, booming beat and catchy hook about living the high life shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, staying there for 8 weeks. Post's mix of rap and melodic swagger clicked with fans, who blasted it everywhere from clubs to car stereos. Ex-users were obsessed, posting memes about sipping on gin and juice and calling Post a vibe king. The follow-up single, Psycho, with Ty Dolla $ign, kept the momentum, hitting #1 too with its hypnotic flow and introspective lyrics about fame's toll. Beer Bongs and Bentleys wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural moment, earning Post his first Grammy nominations, including Album of the Year and Best Rap/Sung Performance for Rockstar. Critics, like those at Rolling Stone, praised its genre-blending magic, calling it a blockbuster that rewrites the rules of hip-hop and pop. Post wasn't content to stay in one lane. Beer Bongs and Bentley showed off his range, mixing trap bangers like Ball For Me with Nicki Minaj, grunge-inspired tracks like Over Now, and even a soft acoustic cut like Stay. He was pulling from his childhood love of Nirvana, Metallica, and Johnny Cash, weaving those influences into hip-hop's framework. Fans on X noticed, tweeting about how Post was making hip-hop for rock kids. His live performances during this time were electric. He headlined festivals like Coachella and Bonnaroo, where he'd bounce between rapping, singing, and strumming guitar, all while chugging a Bud Light. His energy was infectious, and fans loved his unpolished charm. He'd crack jokes mid-set or dedicate songs to his Texas roots. By the end of 2018, Beer Bongs and Bentleys was certified 5 times platinum, and Post was a global superstar. In September 2019, Post dropped his third album, Hollywood's Bleeding, and took things even further. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 with hits like Circles, which became his longest climbing single, taking 39 weeks to reach #1 on the Hot 100. Circles was a departure. Its sunny pop rock vibe felt like a nod to 80s bands like The Police, yet it still had Post's signature emotional depth. The song's lyrics about a failing relationship hit hard, and its guitar-driven sound showed Post leaning into his rock influences. The album was stacked with bangers. Wow was a flex-heavy trap anthem, Sunflower with Sway Lee from the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse soundtrack went 5 times platinum, and Goodbyes with Young Thug tackled loss with raw honesty. Hollywood's Bleeding was Post's most polished work yet, blending hip-hop, pop rock, and even grunge. It featured big names like Ozzy Osbourne on Take What You Want, a track that had metalheads and rap fans alike losing their minds. The album earned Post more Grammy nods, including Record of the Year for Circles. Billboard called it a genre-defying masterpiece, and fans on X agreed, flooding the platform with posts about how Post was saving music. Post's ability to cross genres was now his superpower. He wasn't just a rapper or a pop star, he was both, and more. His 2019 Runaway tour sold out arenas worldwide, with fans packing venues from Los Angeles to London. He performed in his signature oversized t-shirts and cowboy boots, his face tattoos gleaming under stage lights. Between songs, he'd share stories about his Texas upbringing or crack self-deprecating jokes, making 20,000-seat arenas feel like a backyard hangout. His connection with fans was real. X was full of videos of Post stopping shows to take selfies with front-row fans or tossing them his beer-soaked shoes. He was living the rock star life, but he stayed grounded, always thanking his supporters for getting him there. In June 2022, Post released 12 Karat Toothache, a more introspective album that showed his growth. It debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200 with tracks like I Like You, a happier song, featuring Doja Cat and Cooped Up with Roddy Ricch becoming instant hits. The album leaned harder into pop and R&B, with sleek production and vulnerable lyrics about fame, love, and mental health. Songs like Wasting Angels with the Kid Laroi tackled heavy themes, reflecting Post's struggles with the spotlight. Critics noted its maturity, with Pitchfork saying it showed Post at his most human. Fans on X were split. Some missed the raw energy of his early work, while others loved emotional depth. The album's tour was a spectacle, with Post playing massive venues like Madison Square Garden, where he brought out surprise guests like Fleet Foxes. By 2023, Post doubled down on his pop rock evolution with Austin, his fifth album, named after his real first name. Released in July, it hit number 2 on the Billboard 200 and leaned heavily into guitar-driven sounds. Tracks like Chemical and Morning were pop rock anthems, with catchy hooks and introspective lyrics. Post played most of the instruments himself, showcasing his skills as a multi-instrumentalist. The album's raw, personal vibe felt like a love letter to his roots, with songs like Texas Tea nodding to his Grapevine days. Fans on X called it Post's most authentic work yet, and the accompanying tour was a hit, with sold-out shows across North America. Austin proved Post could keep evolving without losing his core. Then, in August 2024, Post made his boldest move yet. He went country. His sixth album, F1 Trillion, was a full-on dive into country music, inspired by his Texas upbringing and love for artists like Hank Williams. The lead single, I Had Some Help, featuring Morgan Wallen, debuted at number 1 on the Hot 100 and stayed there for 6 weeks. The album, which hit number 1 on the Billboard 200, featured collabs with country heavyweights like Blake Shelton, Luke Combs, and Lainey Wilson. Tracks like Pour Me a Drink and Guy for That were twangy, heartfelt, and unmistakably Post, blending his melodic style with steel guitars and country storytelling. Critics were floored. Rolling Stone called it a seamless pivot that feels like Post was born to make country. Fans on X went wild, posting videos of themselves singing along at tailgates and bars. The album's success, with over 80 million records sold in his career, cemented Post as a genre-defining icon. From 2017 to 2024, Post Malone didn't just ride the wave of fame, he reshaped it. Beer bongs and Bentleys made him a superstar. Hollywood's bleeding proved his versatility. 12 Carat Toothache in Austin showed his depth, and F1 Trillion broke new ground. He wasn't afraid to mix hip-hop, pop, rock, and country, creating a sound that was uniquely his. With every album, he pushed boundaries, won over new fans, and kept his Texas heart at the core. By 2024, Post was a global force, setting the stage for an even bigger legacy. As Post Malone's star rose from 2015 to 2024, his music wasn't the only thing making headlines. Behind the chart-topping hits and sold-out tours was Austin Richard Post, a man whose personal life, quirks, and controversies shaped his public image as much as his songs did. From his relationships and lifestyle to his outspoken views and the backlash he faced, Post's journey was as colorful offstage as it was on. He was a Texas kid turned global icon, navigating fame with a mix of charm, vulnerability, and defiance, all while staying true to his unfiltered self. His personal story, filled with highs, lows, and plenty of tattoos, gave fans a glimpse into the real Post Malone, a guy who loved his fans, lived boldly, and wasn't afraid to stir the pot. Post's personal life was a mix of relatable and eccentric. In his early LA days, he was just a broke 19-year-old, crashing on couches and working at Chicken Express. But as fame hit, his lifestyle leveled up. By 2018, he was splitting time between a sprawling $3 million mansion in Los Angeles and a 13,000-square-foot compound in Cottonwood Heights, Utah, where he could escape the Hollywood chaos. The Utah place was a sanctuary, a fortress with a recording studio, a gun range, and enough space to ride ATVs. Post fell in love with Utah's quiet, wide-open vibe, saying in a 2018 Billboard interview that it reminded him of Texas, but without the heat. He decked out the house with quirky touches, like a medieval sword collection and a life-size Chewbacca statue, showing off his nerdy side. Fans on X loved his Utah vibe, posting memes about Post living like a cowboy in a sci-fi movie. Relationships were a quieter part of Post's life, but they made headlines too. From 2015 to 2018, he dated Ashlyn Diaz, a music promoter he met during his early Texas gigs. Their romance was low-key, but Ashlyn was a big part of his rise, supporting him through the Stony era. They split in 2018, and Post poured some of that heartbreak into songs like I Fall Apart. Fans speculated about the breakup on X, with some digging up old photos of the couple, and others praising Post for keeping it private. In 2022, Post revealed he was engaged to a woman named Jamie, and they welcomed a daughter that year. He kept their identities private, saying in a People interview, I want my kid to have a normal life as long as she can. Fatherhood changed him. He got a tattoo of his daughter's initials, DDP, on his forehead, adding to his growing collection of face ink. Fans on X gushed over his dad era, posting clips of him talking about his daughter with a big grin. Post's lifestyle wasn't just about homes and family. It was a vibe. He was a gun enthusiast. Owning a collection, he proudly showed off in a 2018 GQ video, calling them a piece of American freedom. His love for firearms sparked debates on X, with some fans cheering his Second Amendment stance, and others calling it reckless for a celebrity. He was also a self-proclaimed conspiracy theory nerd, joking in interviews about Bigfoot, aliens, and the government being a reality show. In a 2017 Rolling Stone profile, he said, I don't trust nobody, especially not the feds. His quirky beliefs endeared him to some fans, who posted X threads about Post dropping truth bombs, while others rolled their eyes at his wild takes. Politically, he stayed mostly neutral, but leaned left at times. He bashed Trump in 2017, saying he'd rather vote for Bernie Sanders, which got mixed reactions on X. Post tattoos became a defining part of his image. By 2024, his face was a canvas, with ink like stay away above his eyebrow, a dagger under his eye, and always tired under his eyes. He got his first face tattoo, a small cross, in 2016 and kept adding more, saying in a TMZ interview, they were a way to express my soul. His body was covered too, with tributes to Kurt Cobain, Lil Peep, and even a portrait of JFK. Fans on X had a field day, posting close-ups of his ink and debating their meanings, while critics called him a publicity stunt. Post didn't care. He kept getting tatted, saying each one told a story. But fame brought controversies, and Post faced plenty. One of the biggest was the culture vulture accusation. Critics, including rappers like Lil B and Vince Staples, argued Post was appropriating African-American culture, profiting off hip-hop without giving back to its roots. His early hits like White Iverson leaned heavily on trap beats and rap flows, but as a white artist from Texas, some felt he had an unfair edge. In a 2017 Pitchfork interview, Post stirred the pot, saying hip-hop often lacked real shit and that he preferred artists like Bob Dylan for emotional depth. The quote went viral, and X exploded with backlash. Users called him ungrateful, accusing him of biting the hand that fed him. Post backtracked, saying he was drunk and hip-hop is my heart, but the damage was done. The debate lingered, with X threads in 2018 and beyond dissecting his place in rap. Some defended him, pointing to his collabs with black artists like Quavo and Sway Lee, while others saw him as an outsider who cashed in. Post's response to the criticism was mixed. He avoided deep apologies, instead doubling down on his authenticity. In a 2018 Billboard interview, he said, I'm just making music I love, not trying to steal nobody's lane. His genre hopping into pop, rock, and later country helped shift the narrative, but the culture vulture label stuck for some. Fans on X were split. One 2019 post read, Post Malone makes bangers, but he's got to respect where his sound came from, while another said, y'all mad at Post for being himself, let the man live. The controversy didn't derail him, but it shaped how some viewed his success. Another rough patch came in 2020, when fans grew worried about his health. Videos from his runaway tour showed him stumbling on stage, slurring words, and looking out of it. X was flooded with clips, with users speculating about drug use or exhaustion. The concern peaked when Post fell during a show in Memphis, sparking hashtag #PrayForPostTrends. He and his team quickly shut it down, saying in a statement he was not on drugs, just performing with passion. Post addressed himself on X, tweeting, I'm good, y'all. Just having fun, promise. Fans mostly rallied behind him, but the incident left a mark, with some ex-users urging him to slow down. Post kept going, finishing the tour strong, but the scare showed how fame's spotlight could turn harsh. Despite the controversies, Post's bond with fans stayed tight. He was known for random acts of kindness, posing for selfies at gas stations, signing autographs for hours, or surprising fans with free merch. In 2020, he donated $1 million to COVID relief, including funds for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, earning praise on X for using his money for good. He also hosted virtual beer pong games during lockdown, streaming with fans and celebs like Snoop Dogg, keeping spirits high. His charity work wasn't flashy. He'd quietly visit hospitals or fund scholarships, only for fans to share the stories on X later. Post Malone's personal life and controversies were a roller coaster, but they made him who he was. His big houses, wild tattoos, and love for guns and conspiracies painted him as a larger-than-life figure. His relationship with Ashlyn, his private engagement, and fatherhood showed a softer side. The culture vulture backlash and health scares tested him, but he kept moving forward, staying real with fans through it all. By 2024, Post was still the same Austin Post at heart, a Texas kid who loved music, lived unapologetically, and wasn't afraid to take the heat. By 2024, Post Malone had transformed from a scrappy kid uploading tracks to SoundCloud into a global music icon. At just 29 years old, Austin Richard Post had sold over 80 million records, earned 11 Billboard Music Awards, 5 American Music Awards, 6 MTV Video Music Awards, and secured 9 Diamond certified singles, a record for any artist. His genre-defying journey, blending hip-hop, pop, rock, and country, redefined what a modern musician could be. From the viral spark of White Iverson to the chart-dominating F, 1 Trillion, Post's career was a testament to creativity, resilience, and staying true to his Texas roots. As 2025 unfolded, his legacy was already massive, but his future promised even more. With new projects, high-profile performances, and a fan base that spanned the globe, Post Malone was poised to shape music for years to come. Post's achievements were staggering. His debut album, Stoney, 2016, went triple platinum, but it was Beer Bongs and Bentleys 2018 and Hollywood's Bleeding 2019 that made him a superstar, both hitting #1 on the Billboard 200 and earning Grammy nominations. Songs like Rockstar, Psycho, and Circles became anthems, dominating radio and streaming platforms. His later albums, 12 Karat Toothache, 2022, and Austin, 2023, showed his emotional depth and pop rock evolution, while F 1 Trillion, 2024, proved he could conquer country music with hits like I Had Some Help, featuring Morgan Wallen. By 2025, Post was up for 8 Grammy Awards, including Best Country Album for F 1 Trillion and Best Pop Duo/Group Performance for Fortnight with Taylor Swift. His trophy case was packed, but what set him apart was his versatility. Collaborated with everyone from Kanye West to Ozzy Osbourne to Luke Combs, he bridged genres like no one else. Fans on X celebrated his range, with one viral post saying, Post Malone's the only guy who can rap with 21 Savage, rock with Ozzy, and two-step with Morgan Wallen. Post's cultural impact went beyond numbers. He redefined the look and sound of a music star. With his face tattoos, cowboy boots, and tie-dye shirts, he was a walking rejection of the polished pop star mold. His music spoke to a generation, blending the raw energy of hip-hop, the emotional pull of pop, and the storytelling of country. Tracks like Congratulations became graduation anthems, while I Fall Apart soundtracked countless heartbreaks. His genre hopping inspired a wave of artists, from Lil Nas X to Zach Bryan, who mixed styles without fear. Ex-users often called him the king of vibes, posting montages of the songs paired with everything from late-night drives to festival crowds. Critics, like those at Rolling Stone, hailed him as a one-man genre, noting how his refusal to stay in one lane reshaped the industry. His live performances were legendary. Post tours, from the Stoney Run to the F 1 Trillion Trek, sold out arenas and stadiums worldwide. He had a knack for making massive venues feel intimate, cracking jokes, chugging beers, and sharing stories about his Texas childhood. In 2024, He stole the show at the Super Bowl, performing America the Beautiful with a soulful twang that gave fans chills. X lit up with praise, with one user writing, "Post Malone just made the Super Bowl feel like a backyard barbecue." Later that year, he joined Beyoncé for an NFL halftime show, performing their hit Levi's Jeans from her Cowboy Carter album. The performance, blending hip-hop and country, was a cultural moment, with ex-users calling it the collab we didn't know we needed. Post-Coachella 2024 set was another highlight, where he teased new music and brought out surprise guests like Blake Shelton. Fans posted clips of the crowd singing "Pour Me a Drink," proving his country pivot was a smash. Post's connection with fans was a cornerstone of his legacy. He was the rare superstar who stayed accessible. He'd hop on X to reply to fans, retweet their art, or joke about his love for Bud Light. Stories of him meeting fans went viral, like the time he spent an hour signing autographs outside a Utah diner or gifted a pair of his boots to a kid at a show. His charity work, like donating $1 million to COVID relief in 2020 and supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, earned him respect beyond music. Ex-users often shared these moments, with one 2023 post saying, "Post Malone's got more heart than half the industry." His authenticity, whether he was talking about fatherhood, his struggles with fame, or his love for conspiracy theories, made fans feel like they knew him. Looking to 2025, Post's future was bright. He announced a massive tour, the F1 Trillion Tour, set to kick off in spring 2025 with Jelly Roll and Sierra Ferrell as openers. The tour promised to blend his country hits with his classic rap and pop anthems, hitting stadiums across North America and Europe. Fans on X were hyped, with ticket pre-sales crashing Ticketmaster servers. Post also teased a new album at Coachella 2025, hinting it would push boundaries even further. Early Expo speculated it might mix country with electronic vibes, based on cryptic studio clips he shared. His collaboration with Taylor Swift on Fortnite from her 2024 album The Tortured Poets Department was still climbing charts, and rumors swirled about more A-list collabs with artists like Billie Eilish and Chris Stapleton. Post-business ventures were growing too. He launched his Maison No. 9 Rose wine in 2020, which became a hit, with ex-users joking about sipping pasties wine to circles. He also invested in gaming, partnering with brands like HyperX and hosting virtual Call of Duty tournaments. His love for Magic, the Gathering, led to a custom card set, with fans on X geeking out over Post Malone, the Planeswalker. These side hustles showed his entrepreneurial side, but music remained his core. He told Billboard in 2024, "I'm just a kid from Texas who loves making songs. That's all I'll ever be." Challenges lay ahead, but Post seemed ready. The culture vulture debate from his early years still linger for some critics, with X-Threads occasionally revisiting his hip-hop roots. He'd addressed it by diversifying his sound and giving props to influences like Outkast and Tupac, but staying above the fray. Health concerns from 2020 were a distant memory, with Post looking fitter and happier in 2024, crediting fatherhood and Utah's calm for grounding him. His openness about mental health, tackled in songs like Wasting Angels, resonated with fans who posted X tributes about how his music helped them through tough times. Post Malone's legacy by 2025 was one of fearless evolution. He started as a SoundCloud rapper, became a pop rock trailblazer, and conquered country, all while keeping his heart on his sleeve. His music captured the highs and lows of life, love, loss, triumph, and late-night vibes. He inspired millions to embrace their quirks, whether it was face tattoos or a love for genre mashing. As he looked to the future, with a new album, a blockbuster tour, and a growing family, Post was still that grapevine kid dreaming big. X-fans sum it up best. Post Malone's not just an artist, he's a whole damn universe. Whatever came next, one thing was clear. Post Malone was nowhere near done.